Hello everyone, welcome to Dark Fade Tarot. You are joining me on the end of what was a very stormy day in Brussels. Welcome to new subscribers, welcome back to those who already know me. So yes, it's good to have you all here and I'm going to go straight into it. I'm going to talk today about Murder of Crows Tarot by CorradoRoi. It is a loscarabeo deck retailing around the $30 US mark, I would say. It was released, I think, in 2021. I picked it up last year and I opened it in November, and it was a deck that I worked with last month basically. So it's taken some time for me to work with this one. But first of all, I just want to say it has one of these tuck boxes, which kind of like suction pull basically. Very, very well done, very good quality. The artwork is stunning, as you can see there. I am going to put some cutaways in as well, so you can get a better look of the cards in the deck as I talk about it. This retails, as I said already, around the $30 mark. And the cardstock is that typical low scarabeo quality that we now get with the newer decks. It's thick and glossy, but it will hold up very, very well. So I bought this, really not sure where it would belong in my collection, to be very honest with you. It's not something that I'm just trying to move out the way so you can have a better look at the cards when I show them. It's not something that I would necessarily have thought, yes, this is a deck I definitely want, because it is monochrome, and for a very, very long time, I didn't work with monochrome decks. These are the backs. But also secondly, it does have it has a very macabre theme to it. And I was like, is this somewhere that I'm actually going in terms of my practice and so forth? The first thing I did was I did do a deck interview. I'm going to do cutaways anyway, but I'll just show you a few before I start that. But I did do a deck interview, and the one thing that struck me about this deck was how clear it was in saying how it wanted to work with me. In my case, the deck was very clearly a High Priestess deck. That's the role it wanted to play. And I remember thinking, this deck will not pull punches. It's going to straight away tell me and give me guidance. I thought, okay, this is a very, how can I put it? There are decks that I think can shape our practice. And I really felt that this deck is going to shape my practice in some ways. And I just felt like, okay, I do need to try this deck. So, I picked February to work with it. And very strong, this High Priestess, this Piscean spiritual energy came through, very much reminding me of the moon, the ebbs and the flow of the moon, the ebbs and flow of like the cosmos, and it coming through the ground. And I know it sounds really strange, but it really felt as if it's a deck that taps into magic and then grounds the magic, and so it really brings that through in a very Wiccan, earthy way, but it is quite magical. And it's kind of like, to me, it really questioned how I see things. So before I go further, I'm just going to check my notes actually as well and make sure that I cover everything. The deck is by CorradoRoi, as I mentioned, who is an Italian artist that does also comic books. So if you're interested in this kind of art, I would definitely recommend checking out, Los Scarabeo's online website. I'm sure that there is some comic books there that they've done and further information on the artist. And the writer is Charles Harrington. I'm going to go on to that a little bit more, but that was like quite interesting that the writer is Charles Harrington. And I found it really interesting that, the guidebook, this little white book that's been written, even though, one might think it's just a little white book, it's been done very, very well. This tale of the crow, the story that wants to be told through this deck, and then how that influences the different suits, especially, of course, the major arcana, but also how the suits are done, in terms of, let's say, the Seven of Pentacles here, or let me take a card here. Oh, I said Seven of Pentacles, and the next card on this was the Seven of Pentacles. So I'm going to read out from the little white book. It says, resources must be marshaled if we are to reach the furthest shores. Within the earth are ancient devices, long forgotten and requiring deep study. The careless fly forth, risking all. The patient and wise know that secrets will unfold in time. You make yourself familiar with the spinning wheels and meshed gears. Calculate how to adopt them to your designs. I mean, that is powerful. That is really, really powerful. it really puts a spin on the cards, which really for me just added to my practice personally. So I really was very, you know, I was very happy, you know, kind of like, you know, it was good to have that little white book as well as the general meanings that we might have from a standard reference book. So yeah, it was very well, it is very well done in terms of its quality. But the other part of it I want to talk about was, you know, I do want to go into the theme because I do appreciate it has got this very macabre theme, and I know it's not going to be for everyone. I appreciate that. But the macabre theme, there were times when I felt like the crow teases. I felt times when the crow challenges, times when the crow is threatening or not helpful in a situation. And then there were times when the crow was playing the guide. And then I realized that the actual interplay between the human and the crow is, in a way, this journey of the development of the soul. That's how I felt anyway in this deck. And so it really was amazing for me as a reader to really pick up on, like, what is it that I'm hearing here in the message? And this deck really just took me into a space where it was kind of like, it challenged me in what I thought was like safe, or what I thought was an environment that I felt comfortable with. And when it put me in a new environment, actually I began to feel even more as if I was growing, you know, it's expanding my thoughts of like what is acceptable and what is not. It has definitely got some themes which I know that won't be for everyone, but I really love it. You know, I really love how, I mean, this is the Queen of Wands. I mean, I love the Queen of Wands anyway. She's my significator. And then I see her in this and I'm just like, now that's the Queen of Wands that I want to show up as, you know, that really just speaks to me. So I really like the deck because it's got a very powerful pose in how it shows people. It really does convey messages, not through just facial expressions, because sometimes we have masked people, but also through, I mean, this one, she's very facial, but also through their stature and their pose. So I was really blown away by the, by what I was seeing, you know, and there's sometimes, you know, the threat, sometimes the fear that we might have, sometimes the message, you know, of that crow there. So that's the Nine of Swords. So the message that is bringing through our demons, basically. I remember getting the Knight of Pentacles. Now here we have the horse hooded. I mean, what a Knight of Pentacles that is. So, you know, and here, hopefully I can show this. You see, this is, I know now that we can't show nudity, so I'm sorry, it's going to have to be like done like this to cover her properly, basically. But this is, yeah, this is the World card. I can't even show it properly. I'm sorry, I have to do that. So yeah, so yeah, I can't show you the Devil card in this. if you want to know the Devil card, you're gonna have to look it up. But I know I will definitely not be able to show this on YouTube. So yeah, so it's a deck that really challenged me, and it really made me push me out of my boundaries. And I just have to say, hands down, I've absolutely loved working with this deck. I've loved it so much that I'm kind of like putting money away to buy a backup copy, because this is a deck that will, it's kind of like, you know, like I've got behind me the Dreamkeeper's Tarot, then there's the Ferec, you know, there's my original Paulina. It's one of those tarot decks which will join in that collection of I need the deck, basically. I need to work with it. So I'm just going to check my notes here. So yeah, the interplay between human crow was amazing. I think that the thing that I want to take away from this deck, and I want to really talk about, is that it might feel like, you know, can I work with this deck? It might be just too scary for me. It might be, you know, it might be too barren landscapes. But I believe that these are landscapes within me that definitely I've had to, I don't know what I'm showing here. Definitely you know, this is the Empress. Landscapes that, like, I do have to come across in everyday life. So this is one thing I don't like, is faces and moon cards, but okay, we'll move on from there. But, you know, sometimes these very challenging faces and expressions, but they're everyday life. So I believe that this deck really, it doesn't sugarcoat things, but that's part of the journey of tarot, I think, to not have everything sugar coated. So Personally, I love the deck, and I think that the art also is, you know, of a very high caliber. Very well done, very clever, very intelligent. I love that Six of Swords. So yeah, you will find, you know, if you choose to work this deck, you will find sometimes people made up with maths in ways that, you know, it is going to be kind of like sometimes fetishes and so forth are going to be a part of this deck. But again, I think it's a deck that is meant to challenge. That is the job of this deck. It's meant to make me think. And I loved it for that. I just really think it's a very powerful part of my library. That's the best way I'm going to put it. So, you know, I think that the final message I want to say about this deck is, and I keep talking about it, is that, you know, I believe, and here I am on the King of Swords, you know, it's about the greater good. Like, it's about, I have to see beyond myself and not just all the things that I like, that I find comfortable. Yeah, it is the greater good. So yeah, I really just loved it for that. So Charles Harrington, let me just go on to their writing. I was really loving the writing. I didn't realize, and now I'm going to go on to the deck that I've paired it with, which I need to do a separate video on because that deck is just also amazing, is Journey of a Lonely Soul. And what I didn't realize is the guidebook is also written by Charles Harrington. So I had no idea until actually after I stopped working with the decks. That's how, I mean, yeah, exactly. Now you're thinking, what? But yeah, it's written on the side as well, Charles Harrington. But yeah, they paired together so well. And I'm going to just make sure I shift so I can show the pairings. They worked beautifully together. It was almost like a synchronicity of messages, synchronicity of where I look at something. I just absolutely loved working with Journey of a Lonely Soul. I'm not going to go through the deck now because I want to focus on the Merger of Crows for this specific video, but I am going to do a separate video on Journey of a Lonely Soul because I think it needs its own video. It is an amazing oracle deck. I think it's one of those, oh, this is the wrong way around it now, but I think it's one of those decks which I think a lot of people, because of the fact that, you know, they might be like, oh, it's photoshopping and all this, I don't know. I think that sometimes in this critique, we sometimes miss what the decks are there for me anyway. And I got a lot out of working with this one. So I don't know how much it is in the US. I know right now in Europe, it's like 13 euros, which is just great. I think it's going to come in at like, you know, a reasonable amount, hopefully, you know, for the US viewers as well. So I definitely recommend that oracle deck. So the other thing about Charles Harrington, which is why I wanted to speak a little bit about the author, was that also they are the author of, which I missed it, Tarot V, one of my other favorites. So I was like, of course I'm gonna love Murder of Crows. How could I be so slow on this one? So I'm so glad they did this. And then finally, before I forget, they're going to be doing another deck, which is coming out in, oh, they also are the author of the Pinter Tarot, which I'm going to be discussing later on this year. And then finally, there's a deck that they're releasing. I think it's the 8th of August. I could be wrong, but I think the date was the 8th of August this year. It is Tarot of the Vampyres with an I. Now, because we have Tarot Vampyres with a Y, which is the Ian Daniels deck. And I know that I got the feeling somewhere in a forum, somebody talked about Tarot of the Vampyres and they mixed it up with Tarot of the Eternal Souls. Tarot of the Eternal Souls, as I recall, is a Barbara Moore deck by Llewellyn. That is, I don't know when it's meant to come out. I don't know anything about that one yet. Enough about that, sorry. But the one with Charles Harrington as the author, a Llewellyn deck, and I don't know if it's going to be in this kind of a box, one of those large boxes. I've got a feeling it might be one of those large box decks, is to be released in August this year, and it's called Tarot of the Vampyres. And I don't know if it's still available for pre-order or if it's already available for pre-order. I'm not sure about that either. But I'm going to try and put a cutaway, so that's why I'm trying to move out the way so I do this right, of that. So if you're interested, I really like the author's writing. So for me, it's like a no-brainer, you know, it's that deck. So before I forget, the other way I could pair this deck with, I think might work with, is Fiona Horn's Magic of You. I don't have that deck. I want to get it. It's on my wish list. But it might go with that. I'm not sure still, but I think it could. I think finally, you know, my final parting words on this deck are, this is a, let me get this out. You know, some people are going to see this as a Halloween or Samhain or Hallows Eve, however you want to call it. Halloween, I always say All Hallows Eve. I'm very English. You know, I think it's naturally it would sit in that kind of season. I love it so much that I want to do like more readings with it next week, basically. That's how much I love it. So I don't see myself, you know, putting this away. I think this is for me one of those decks which, you know, it will sit on my desk. It's a bit like Tarot of Oppositions, and you know, a lot of loscarabeo decks for me always come back to my desk. I am a loscarabeo. Look at that. I mean, that's the Two of Pentacles. I mean, a lot of loscarabeo decks for me are just their workhorse decks, and especially these new ones that they're doing. They're so well done in terms of their quality, I believe. So for me, it's an all-year deck, but for some, it might be more towards the Samhain period. And I believe that this is a really good reflective deck. This is not a, you know, pull a card and yeah, it's like the Knight of Wands, action, let's just get on with it. It's a deck for reflection for me. It really tells me like, you know, what is it that, you know, maybe I'm just sitting around too much and it's like time to get on with it. This deck really just, you know, this is the Fool in the deck. It makes it, it's just superb, basically. I haven't done a full walkthrough, but, you know, I just wanted to give you guys, people, sorry, I should say, a flavor. And I keep wanting to show cards because it's just so good. But hopefully you get an idea for this. So yes, so if you've already worked with this deck, please let me know. If you want to work with it, let me know as well. Maybe it was for you or not, I don't know. If you're on the fence, I would say give it a try, but you know, again, it's an acquired, I think it's an acquired taste deck kind of thing. It's not for everyone. You know, some people would love it. Some people would find this, you know, a little bit too sharp. I just think it's an amazing deck. So I'm so glad I have it in my arsenal. So yes, next set of videos coming up. I do know I need to do something with Kelly Burton's Sacred Bee decks. And of course my March decks will be coming through as well soon for you all, and a few other things. You know, I've definitely got things in the back burner, and hopefully you're enjoying the new setup, but I also want to be face to face, so I'm glad to see everybody out there, and I will talk to you all soon. Take care now. Bye.